And I have the honor now to share and give and Mike to be on the stage. And Mike is an amazing professional, a digital marketing consultant with more than 20 years of experience of brand management, experience in B2C and B2B sectors. He's also a founder, a business owner of Connected Jewelry LLC. This is a Miami-based digital marketing business. He had worked with large multinational, small family businesses, including Unilever, Diageo, and World Gold Council. So he has tons of experience, not only in the corporative side, but also working with small businesses. And I have had the experience of working before with Mike during the AI marketing course. And he's an amazing professional, has tons of experience in digital ad strategy. So please take advantage of all of Mike's knowledge today and ask your questions. He's more than happy to guide you and take you through this amazing masterclass for today. So the stage is yours, Mike. Welcome, welcome, and so happy to have you here.
Great, thanks, Angie. Thanks for all the nice things you said about me. And so great to see so many people I've actually worked with or instructed or have been on sort of Dan's courses, Digital Marketing Edge, as well as the AI Masterclass courses. I can see Amanda, Ariel, Hazael, Olivia, Andrea, a whole bunch of you out there. So thanks very much for showing up. And hopefully this will be really useful to you. This originally started off as a micro class, which was run during one of our AI Masterclass courses. And we decided to expand it because the information became so useful to people who are using it. So let's go through to the right point in this and we can get going. Okay, so I would class this as a sort of intermediate level session. It does assume that you have access to your company's Meta Business Manager and Ads Manager. And you probably have seen Meta Business Suite and you think you're on Meta Business Suite, which you probably are. But if you're not on Business Manager, you need to get onto that as well. And the easiest way to do that is to get onto business.facebook.com and then sign up if you haven't. You'll know if you're on or you're not, because you'll have access to a more advanced advertising platform, which shows you campaigns and enables you to target with more advanced sort of metrics and things like that. There's incidentally two places where you can run ads from. You can run ads from Meta Business Suite, which just generally sort of boost ads or boost your posts, or you can get the full all singing, all dancing advertising section, which is called the Ads Manager on Meta Business Manager. And if you aren't running your ads because you've got an agency running your ads, then just ask them to give you admin access to the Meta Business Manager. And there's a little sort of section, there's a link here, which is zapier.com blog Facebook Business Manager. If you want to take a screenshot of that, if you want sort of more help on that. But there's a ton of information on how to set up your Meta Business Manager. Okay. Having said that, it's an intermediate level lesson, but a lot of the principles involved in creating this prompt, which I've developed, and in using the prompt to analyze data could be applied to pretty much any platform. So you're probably going to be able to get reports from Google, from X, from any of these social media platforms. And if you understand, how to take those and take that information and then analyze it with a prompt, you can pretty much run the same principles anywhere you want with this. So the first question, I think, is, are Meta ads working? And clearly they are working for Mark Zuckerberg, because the revenue has been going up like crazy, ever since 2007, when the ad part of the app started being put online. The revenue has been going up, and that's largely due to sort of ever more complex interfaces, and more recently due to AI. So Meta spent $39 billion in their AI capability last year. This year they're going to double it. So almost half of their revenue is going to be pushed into AI. So you can see that AI is not going to go away. They're definitely going to carry on building on this. And so far it's working. I mean, they're saying that if you use AI, particularly what they're calling their Advantage Plus tools, you're going to get better costs, and your cost is going to go down by about 30%. And I've seen this with some of the BizHack ads where we've done sort of A/B testing, that there is definitely a result in terms of a discount. It may not be 30%, maybe 20%, but using some of these AI features actually does work, particularly in targeting. And they're called Advantage Plus. So you've got Advantage Plus Audience, for example, is one. Advantage Plus Placements is another. The fact that this is working for Meta doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to work for you. And this is the question you've got to ask yourself. Are these ads and is the information that you're getting actually the information that you can use? Because what Meta is doing is it's giving you a ton of information, but it's not necessarily telling you what it means or how you should interpret it or what your next steps should be. So whilst Mark Zuckerberg is working with AI to help attract people to his platform, keep them online, get those eyeballs, and generally sort of try and extract as much money from you as he can in terms of advertising, you need to balance the situation and actually start getting AI working for you in terms of making sure that what you're getting out of Meta ads is actually worthwhile. Because some of these, AI can actually take you down slightly the wrong direction. Not every target which Meta suggests may be the target that you want, may be too expensive, for example. So the sort of questions you should be asking are, is your advertising achieving the primary objective? And when I talk about primary objective, there are specific things called objectives, which are like building awareness, encouraging interaction, driving traffic, converting. All the points in the funnel are covered essentially by different advertising objectives, which you can find on Meta. Is it cost effective, and is it better than the competition? What ChatGPT can do is it can help you negotiate better, in a sense, with Facebook. It's going to allow you to control the data, to understand what's happening better, and to decide whether you want to actually, scale up or provide more money to Facebook or not. So what it can do in a prompt, and what it can do, let's say, in creating a report, is to help you understand the data better. So it can make the data simpler. It can produce charts, comparisons, tables, and then it can help you benchmark your ads versus competitors. And I'm talking about competitors outside, let's say, Meta. So it's now giving you a more global perspective, rather than just working on whatever within Facebook and trusting what they're saying. It helps you identify your best performing ads if you have a number of ads you want to analyze against each other, and it can help you optimize and make suggestions for improvements, which is really very useful indeed, particularly on the creative side. So there's really three steps, I think, to using AI effectively when you're trying to use it to analyze Meta ad campaigns. The first is you need to extract the right data from Meta, and they've got a section which is called the Meta Ad Report, or ads reporting, and you can go in there and you can pull off reports. And it's pretty much the only place where you can get sort of comprehensive reports. So I'm going to show you what those reports look like. Once you've got the data out, you might need to clean it up a little bit and add some information, for example, like the ad length if you're using videos, because they don't have anything that actually shows that within their reports that they create. So you clean it up, and then you can upload it to ChatGPT with a prompt, which I'm going to give you. And we're going to go through the prompt so I can explain how the prompt looks, why it was constructed the way it was constructed, and also why it's important in that prompt to have benchmarks. And by benchmarks, I mean examples. For example, what is the click-through rate? What is the cost per engagement that different industries are using? And those things generally they're not going to be available on Meta, on the ad platform. So you have to find those externally. So those are the three steps we're going to go through. And also, in terms of the benchmarks, I've decided to put the benchmarks into the prompt itself rather than upload them as yet another report. So once you upload the stuff into ChatGPT, you'll be uploading one ad report that comes from Facebook plus one prompt that tells ChatGPT how to interpret that data from Facebook. So when measuring ad performance, here are some of the key things which you want to look at. And this is sort of very much top of the funnel. So I'm not going to cover all the different, ad performance measures because there's I think 375 of these things on Meta platforms. But you can, so these are some of the main ones. So you've got, for example, this is an ad in the middle. I've just highlighted in each case the area which I'm talking about. So if it's a video ad, one of the things you want to find out is what is the total number of impressions? What are the number of video plays? So how many times does a video start playing? And what's the percentage of the video that's played? So people might get through the whole video, in which case they're very engaged, or they might just drop off after a couple of seconds, in which case they're not. And that tells you a lot about, what you need to change in terms of making your ad better. So those are sort of useful metrics. And by impressions, I mean number of times an ad appears on a user's screen. So impressions is like your base, most granular way of looking at ads and being able to evaluate them. And a lot of things are compared to impressions. For example, your click-through rate is the number of clicks compared to the number of impressions. So that's obviously an important one we need to look at. And video plays and percentage of video plays is also useful. Then for the ads I'm going to analyze, these ads were engagement ads. So they used the post-engagement objective. They didn't use traffic objective, which would have probably measured clicks. But in this case, they're using post-engagement. So the measure is post-engagements. And a post-engagement is any click pretty much anywhere on the ad. And interestingly enough, it also includes the ad playing for more than 3 seconds. So a lot of these video ads are actually on autoplay. It means that if you are slow scrolling and you wait more than 3 seconds, then you're probably going to be registered by Facebook as actually having engaged with that post, even though maybe you haven't, maybe you're just sort of like thinking about having a cup of coffee or something. It's still going to count you as a video plays, which is definitely worth thinking about when you're thinking about, is this data reliable? Some of the data I'm getting out of Meta. Next one is link click-through rate, which is very important because you want to send people somewhere quite often. So I'm talking about clicking on the Learn More button. Now, the confusing thing about Meta is they have click-throughs, CTRs, what they call them, click-through rate, which is clicks on anything on the ad. And then you've got link click-through rates, which is just clicks on the button, which are far more valuable. And that's really what you want to track because that's much more interesting. So we want to look at the click-through rate and also the cost per link click, not the cost per click, but the cost per link click again. And then another thing you could look at is measuring sort of conversions or landing page views. So once people click on the Learn More button, they're going to end up probably on your website, filling in a form or even buying a product. And you can measure that as well. Now that's a little bit more complex, so I'm not going to go into that so much in this session, but you can treat the data the same way. In other words, you can download data on sales in the report, and then you can analyze it much the same way as you analyze any of the other data which I've just shown you. So creating the ad report is the first step. When you get into the ad report or ads reporting section, you have a table which is called the pivot table, and I'll go into it in a second and show you a little bit more clearly. On the left-hand side, you'll have like the ad names. In this case, all the names are engagement ad, which is nice and confusing because the ad description was actually at the campaign level. But I'm suggesting you do your analysis at the ad level because it makes it easier to compare ads rather than comparing an ad to an ad set to a campaign, which is like mixing apples and oranges. I'm just suggesting that you look at ads specifically. You can filter it for like Facebook or whatever. And then these are the key things which, based on what I've just been talking about, other sort of metrics that I would look at. One is certainly the amount you spent and the impressions. The other is the results and the cost per result. In this case, the results are post engagements, which remember was all these sort of red areas here. So you want to find out, did your campaign meet its objective? And incidentally, if you set a different objective, your results are going to be different. So if you set an objective for traffic, for example, instead of post engagement here, you would get traffic appearing here as a cost per result. So we want the number of results, the cost per result. Then we want to look at the link clicks and the cost per link click and the click-through rate. That's another section. And lastly, sort of the video plays and the number of times that, it's basically sort of indicating the number of people who get through the whole ad. So you got video plays and the number of plays at 25%, number at 50%, number at 75%, and video plays at 100%. And a lot of people might drop off after 25%. So it's actually useful to create a graph of this, which I'll show you later on. So if you have these three sections, and you're getting metrics from each of these, like I have here, your results are going to show you, is your campaign effective in reaching its objective? Are the link clicks working? In other words, is your offer, which you're asking people to learn more about, irresistible? So irresistible that they really sort of do hit that learn more button quite frequently. And lastly, are they actually viewing the video? And I talked about sort of campaign objectives. So in this ad, we're talking about engagement, but each campaign objective comes with a number of performance goals. So when you set up the ad, if you're setting up an awareness ad, you can say, optimize this ad for reach or impressions or ad recall lift or video views. And you can even actually, you can take different ad sets and have a different performance goal for each ad set within an awareness campaign, which is pretty useful. So you could try and say, okay, well, how does my ad perform if I optimize it for reach? And how does it perform if I optimize it purely for video views, something like that. Now, the result, which you saw in the previous table, is Meta interprets that result as being the primary metric used to optimize and measure the performance goal. So, for example, if you're prioritizing engagement, if that's your objective, and you set post engagement as your performance goal, then the result is going to be post engagements. And you can see at the bottom, it says maximize engagement with a post. That's what sort of appears on your screen. So result is a flexible term, which Facebook uses. But whenever you see the word result on any report, bear in mind that result is always dependent upon what the objective was that you set for the ad in terms of what you wanted it to do. And that will sort of help you to understand it a little bit better. So then crafting the prompt, that's the next thing. So once you've got the ad report out, you want to create a prompt, which I think it needs some structure to it. So I started, this is basically how I built it, and I'll show you in more detail, but this is a sort of top line view. So you've got background information like data source name, date range, just to tell you, just to remind you, like in 5 years' time, when you look back at it, this is where I got the data from. A summary, section 1 is more like sort of around cost per result analysis. Section 2 is probably link click performance analysis. Section 3 is going to be the video audience retention, maybe a graph in section 4, and then some trends and patterns and some suggested next steps. So in this case, these are the things which I think I want ChatGPT to do in terms of analysis of the report. And in each case, under each section, there's a table which lays out the data, which is relevant. And then there's commentary. So I've asked ChatGPT to create the table first, and then to look at its own table, which is now created based on the information, and then make comments about that table. And I think the two things are necessary, else it's not really commenting. It doesn't know what it's commenting on so easily. So within your tables, you need to look at things like defining what are the metrics you're going to use in each table, because you want a different table for each part of the report. If you're analyzing link clicks, you want your table to talk about, to have information on link clicks and cost per link click. You don't want it in that table to talk about post engagements, because that's in a separate section. So each table is specific and the metrics to use are specific. Then sometimes you may download a report and it may have missing data. So you want to tell ChatGPT, this is how to handle that. You want to define what the formatting is to make sure that all your tables are consistent. Sometimes when you download data from Facebook, it's not going to give you a percentage. It's not going to show you something which should be marked as a percentage. It's going to give you a long string of numbers, which are terrible to put into a table. In fact, quite often it does numbers to 7 or 8 decimal points. And when you feed that into ChatGPT, it says, there's a string of numbers, I don't understand it. And you have to sort of like guide it to understand that actually it's a real number. It's not just a string of random digits. So defining the format that you want the report to be in to ensure consistency is important. Giving it the calculation, the instructions for how to compare what's coming out of Meta to benchmarks which you've got. In others, how you benchmarking and how you're evaluating the difference between the benchmark and your performance. For example, one thing would be like, it could show that your costs are 10% below what the average cost is for a link click. So you need to specify to ChatGPT how it would perform that calculation. And then you can also get it to rank the ads in tables. And another thing I found is that sometimes ChatGPT has in the past put in numbers which are sort of, they feel like random numbers into tables. So occasionally I throw in a question which says, okay, you've taken this number from the report, which I uploaded, the meta report. Just check this number using this other information and see if it's the same. And if it's not correct, then just type the word error in. And sometimes that highlights if it's, if it's starting to go off track in terms of putting the data in. Then written commentary, well, you want to analyze the data presented in the tables, so you ask it to do that, and to review and explain the performance of the ads, and maybe even to define some of the terms, because some people reading the report might not know what a hook rate is or what a hold rate is, that sort of thing. And I'll get into that a little bit later. So we're going to ask it to produce tables, ChatGPT that is, to produce tables, to produce a written commentary on the tables, and also to produce a graph. And this is like the audience retention graph, which I talked about briefly before. So you've got, percentage of ad viewed, and you've also got, let's see, the views as a percentage of impressions. So this is basically telling you, you've got two ads here, for example. Both ads start off with being played. So 100% of impressions are seen. And then as the ad goes on, people drop off. And at 25%, there's only 50% of people are sticking with the ad at that point. So these drop-off points on the graph are very useful to work out, is there something your ad is doing? Is there some part of the creative in the ad which suddenly disengages you? And you think, okay, I'm not interested. And that's where people drop off. So the steeper it is, the faster the drop off. And then you can compare these two things. Now, you can't compare these graphs on Meta. So this is something you can get ChatGPT to do. And lastly, like the hook and the hold rate are something which Meta has just recently put in, which I think is useful. The hook rate is considered to be 3-second video plays divided by impressions. So that's the number of people who actually get to watching 3 seconds of the ad. And the effective rate really is 30%, 30 to 50%. So if you serve the ad 100 times, and it's seen 100 times, and out of those times that it's seen, after 3 seconds, 50% of those times that it's seen, people are continuing to play it, then that's considered to be quite a good hook rate. If it's under 20 to 25, it's poor. And then the other thing, this hook rate really measures like initial engagement, like is it thumb stopping? And then the hold rate is, if you take the through plays, which is considered to be 15 seconds, or if your ad is shorter, it's however long your ad is, what percentage of the people who got to 3 seconds ended up getting to 15 seconds? So how have you maintained people after that 3-second mark? And in that case, 60% is good, 46% is good for a mid-length video, and 25 to 40% is good for a longer video. Obviously, longer videos are more difficult to hold people through. So those are two metrics which Facebook has just incorporated in the last few months, I think, which is useful to know about. And then benchmarking ad performance, see how we're doing. Okay, good. So benchmarks, this is something which you want to benchmark your data compared to what competitors are doing out there. And in particular, there's 3 benchmarks which I'm interested in here. One is the cost per result, one is the cost per link click, and the other is the link click-through rate. So I can go out online and try and find this information, or I can use information from my own ads. And there's advantages and disadvantages with each. For example, online sources can show you data which highlights performance issues with your ads, because suddenly you see, oh, everyone else is getting like a good rate, a good click-through rate, but my ads don't appear to be doing that. All of my ads don't appear to be doing that. So therefore, there's a generic problem with your ads in some way. However, a lot of this data can be unreliable, and I'll show you why. So that's when you try and get competitor ad performance data online. And then if you're comparing to your own ad data, it's going to be much more accurate, but it's not going to pick up some of the things which, comparing your data with what others are doing online gets you. So, but I would say generally you want to look at both of these. So here's, for example, a benchmark which you could go out and search. If you put in cost per engagement, it will probably, if you put that into Google, you'll probably get this, and it will say average Facebook cost per engagement is 0.077 dollars per engagement. You could say, okay, well, that's worth putting in. I think that's reliable. Or you could look at that and then you could check and see whether in your past ad history, are you getting to the same sort of number, or is your number quite different? Because if it's different, it might indicate that there's a problem with this benchmark. Maybe the benchmark is for an industry which you're not in. Maybe these numbers are high. Maybe this this was a particularly good year for engagement for some reason. I don't know. I mean, engagement over the pandemic started having some particular issues. Some things went up, some things went down. So the considerations you need to think about with online benchmarking: watch out if the data is out of date, if it was run at a different time to when you're running your ads, because then you can't compare the data to your ads. The objective that was used in the data may be different to your objective. So, for example, if someone online is doing is providing you data for traffic and saying the link click costs for traffic is this rate, and you're looking at your link costs, but your objective isn't traffic, it's post engagements, then the two aren't really comparable. Because depending upon what the objective is, Meta will prioritize link clicks in a different way. If you put post engagements, it's going to prioritize post engagements. It's not going to prioritize link clicks, which will make link clicks more expensive and will bring down the cost of post engagements. So you have to bear that in mind. Sometimes all the data is aggregated. It's not split by industry or geography. So you could get data on other industries mixed in there, which got nothing to do with your industry. Audience targeting may be different. And the data may be looking at a particular platform like Instagram, whereas you're looking at Facebook. So, and also, even terms like CTR, sometimes you can get a benchmark for CTR, and they mean click-through rate, which is like all clicks on the ad, versus what you're looking for, which is link click-through rate. And it doesn't really make it clear what it is. Just as an example of data sources. If you put in, let's say, a average cost per click, quite often you'll be taken to this particular site, which is WordStream. And even ChatGPT, if you ask it to, will give you this site. And now the thing is, it's giving you this site because it says April the 4th, 2025. So it thinks this is a nice updated site. And here you've got your average cost per click for all these different industries on the bottom. So for example, for education here, it's at $1.06 cost per click. And for customer services, it's $3.08 per click. So you think, oh, this is great, a lot of detailed information. But unfortunately, when you get into reading about this, it says it's based on information between November 2016 and January 2017. So that's 8 years ago. It's just it's not going to be relevant. And then the second thing it says is, and you notice it says November and January. So between November and January, you've got holiday season when everything's going to be artificially high. So the danger of asking ChatGPT to go out and find this data and then incorporate it automatically without reviewing it is that ChatGPT is going to be pumping in stuff which is not vetted, and it could be incorrect. So that's why I suggest that when you're looking for benchmarks online, you do it yourself. You might use ChatGPT to help you get to the right sites, but then you really have to evaluate the sites carefully. For example, this cross here, this is a sort of a plot of the different costs per click over time. From another site for all the ads, and it shows from January 2021 to January 2024 the cost per click actually came down. So consequently, this red cross here shows what we were looking at in 2017, that the price was the cost per click was very, very high, and obviously it's come down. And it's very, very high because not just because it's a long time ago, but also if you look on the right, the seasonality between November and January really jumps. So the cost per click jumps up in November to January. So actually, if you were looking for a more accurate cost per click rate, you'd probably be looking at something down here, which is in July, at least sometime during January 2024. And this actually is 2024. Facebook, this is another site, which is WordStream. So this one has cost per click and click-through rate for different these different industries. And this looks a little bit more reasonable. It's not 1.7 or whatever the other one said. It's 0.77 cost per click. So that looks a little bit more reasonable. And the click-through rate is 1.21% for education. But even with something like this, with traffic objectives, you got to be careful because or with link clicks, again, this is based on the traffic objective. So if you're using this to evaluate how well you're doing with link clicks, when you have a post engagement objective, it's going to be this is probably going to underestimate the cost. So, and the other thing is that this is, as it says here, it says, cost per click. It doesn't tell you whether it's cost per link click. So if it's cost per link click, probably the cost is going to be higher. In other words, cost per click is generally lower than the cost of link click per link click. And the click-through rate is going to be higher than, for all clicks, is going to be higher than link clicks. So again, this is like one of these things where you're looking at and trying to work out what do they mean by click? Do they mean link click? Do they mean all clicks? And is there any information that's helping you to understand what it is? So it's quite sort of nuanced. Anyway, let's go into analyzing some ads and I'll show you how it all works. These are the 3 ads we're going to do. One is an ad which is 12 seconds with Dan talking about, Dan, our founder, that is, talking about how AI, we can help, or how BizHack can help you in terms of AI to grow your business. And it's a sort of general informational thing. And then the one that's about 12 seconds. So you can see it says BizHack Academy provides a compelling solution for businesses looking to blah, blah, blah. Probably to grow is probably the next word. In the middle, you've got AI Marketing Accelerator. So this is an ad which is actually about 7 seconds and just shows this head rotating. So there's not that much in it, but it's got quite a lot of text on here. People should attend the AI Accelerator course, begins next week. And then the call to action is, Marketing Accelerator, learn more. And then this is a sort of variant of this one. So this is quite useful to compare and see, well, which of these did better? Again, this is 7 seconds and it just has this head turning around gradually. So they're all videos, all slightly different. This one is definitely a little bit longer and very different in terms of how it's presented. And in fact, even the product that you're getting at the end of it is this is like for people who really want to incorporate AI broadly in their business and how we can help them and setting up a call. And this is more about, okay, come to the Marketing Accelerator course and do it. And you'll learn specifically, what's instructed in that course. So I'm going to now escape from this. And I'm going to put it all together. So the first thing is, let's see if I can find it. Ads Manager. So if you go, hopefully everyone can see this. Give us a shout if you can't. Oh, also, if you've got any questions, sorry, I have to run through this quite fast, but we'll get to them at the end. I just want to keep the flow going. So when you go to your Ads Manager, you'll see on the left-hand side, you've got various things, including campaigns, which you're probably used to seeing, and then this thing which says ad reporting. So you click on that, and you're going to have this will be blank to start with, and then you can start creating reports. And I've created a report, so it just saves us time in terms of looking at it. So that's this one here. So this is a pivot table, and you can sort of explore this a little bit more if you've got access to the information and to Ads Manager. The key things are, this thing here is like the where you can customize it. So this allows you to do 2 things. It's got these 2 tabs. One is breakdown, one is metrics. Breakdown gives you what goes on this side. So it's basically, I specified ad name which in this case is engagement ad, and platform, which is Facebook. And then that's all I've really specified for the breakdown. But I could have done things like add creative, objective day. And in fact, add creative is the useful one. So if I click on add creative, this is not useful for the report it generates, but just to get your bearings, it's quite useful. It's now showing me what the creative is. And if I was to hover over this, then it will actually show me the ad and even play the ad. So I'll just play you this.
BizHack will train you and your team in how to use AI tools effectively, and will leverage AI tools in our fractional CMO services to build you the best strategy possible. BizHack will...
Yeah, very clear. And then this one, let's have a look at this one, what it looks like. If I can get it to open up, here we are. There you are. No words, just the head rotating, slightly eerily. Okay, and then this one. So I can get it to do it again. Again, just you got this slight movement. Now you could say, well, what's the point in doing this as a video? Well, there is a point actually that you can count the interactions on post engagements and retarget people because they've watched 3 seconds of the video, which you wouldn't be able to do if it was just a static post. So there's certain reasons why you might want to do videos which look a little bit strange. And you think, well, why don't we just do that as a static post? And the other thing, of course, is you can time exactly how long people were watching this. And from the timing, you can say, oh, they probably started reading this, or they didn't start reading it, you know? So it gives you an indication of whether they were reading this. And once again, if you did a static post, that, static ad, that wouldn't be something you can measure. So you've now seen that. And then the metrics along here, you can change these from here. So if you go through metrics, you've got amount spent, impressions. I just picked these. So you check these boxes. Actually, these are the popular ones. So these are all repeated below. So you would just check each of these in turn, and you would create your columns here. And the columns are the ones which I showed you before. So you've got impressions, results, cost per result, link clicks. So essentially a section on link clicks, a section on video plays, and a section on post engagement, which in this case is the result. So now you've got that. Now, the other thing to note is a couple of things. One is you need to set the date. If you set this date incorrectly, you won't see any information here. So you want to make sure you've got the date correct. And then you can filter this, which is very, very useful. In this case, I filtered it for video plays at 100% being greater than 0, which means that I wanted to, if there was any ad which had no instances of people getting to the end of the ad, I didn't want to show that because it wasn't worth it. So here I just wanted that at least one person to have got to the end of the ad in order to be able to evaluate it. And then the platform is Facebook. If I uncheck this, for example, it's now going to show me Instagram ads as well. So as I actually do want to just filter it for Facebook ads, I can go to platform and say platform is Facebook. Apply. So you can filter this however you want. And basically the idea of filtering it is you're just getting down to the ads which you want to compare, or the ads which you really want to look at. That's what the Facebook filtering is. So then what you do is you can save this, which is really, really useful because now you can keep coming back to it. And then you can change the date and do whatever you want. And then you can export it. So I'm going to export this as a CSV. So now if I go to my, there is just sort of appearing downloads. Here it is. So as you can see, this looks a little bit clunky. It doesn't look like a very nice format or anything else. You've got these weird long strings. You don't know whether there's a percentage, what's going on here. Two things I would change to clean this up, first of all. One is the ad name. In this case, all the ads are the same, so ChatGPT is not going to know what's going on. So you need to give these distinctive names if they don't have them. So Dan, let's call the first one Dan. The second one I'm going to call Gray Robot. Third one I'm going to call Blue Robot. And then the platform, that's all the rest is okay, except I'm going to add a column here, which is called add length, because there's nowhere on the pivot table, which I just showed you, where you can actually specify add length, but it is useful to know. So the add length for Dan was about 12 seconds. The add length for Grey Robot was 7 seconds. And the add length for Blue Robot was 0.7. 0.7. So that's now being cleaned up as much as I want to clean it up. All the other cleaning up is actually going to take place in the prompt. So I don't need to do anything else. So I'm just going to save that. And then I'm going to go to the prompt. So here's the prompt. And this is something that Jose is now going to put in the chat so you can get to it. So this is actually quite a long prompt. I would class it as a mega prompt. And I've got instructions for how to use it, and then the actual prompt itself. So the instructions are, well, I tell you what it's going to do. It's going to analyze results, link clicks, and video views of your Meta ads with the data available in the Meta advertising report, which you've just downloaded. It's designed to look at and compare individual ads at the ad level rather than compare apples and oranges like campaigns or ad sets, etc. So I've just sort of kept it very simple. You can generate the Meta advertising report in the ads reporting section of Meta Ads Manager, as I just showed you, or you can get your ad agency to do it. Then these are the steps. You create the Meta ad report, you add the data, which we just did actually. It says here, change name of each ad if necessary, which we did. Add a column which shows the length of ad. Okay, we've done that. Add the benchmarks. And this is the bit I'm going to show you in a second. And in this case, we want the benchmarks are the average cost per result is a benchmark we want, and the average result rate. And then upload the prompt. And then this is a little bit more detailed. So this is saying, you know, when you get into the ads ad reporting section, these are the columns which you should list on your metrics, and these are the columns you should list on your breakdown. So, you know, there's little boxes I was checking. This just tells you which boxes to check in order to do this. Then you download the CSV report. It's a little bit more detail, you know, alter the ad name. This is really sort of a little bit more detailed, but fairly repetitive with the previous thing. And then add industry and company benchmark. So compare your Meta advertising report metrics with online industry benchmarks for Facebook or Instagram ads, or for comparable ads already run within your own company. So these two ways you can do it. I've said that ChatGPT cannot be relied upon to choose the most relevant benchmark data for your industry when conducting its analysis. So you have to find and verify it yourself before you add it to the prompt. So you're going to add this benchmark data into this document. And the place where you're going to add it is in section 1 and section 2. So your cost per result depends what result you want. So if I go to section 1, for example, I'll show you that in a second. You have basically, this is a format. So because your campaign might be for link clicks, or it might be for post engagements or any other sort of type of result, I suggest that you say for result type, let's say link clicks, or for a result type post engagements, use this dollar figure as the benchmark. So you just need to add that. Hopefully it'll become a little bit clearer when I show you down below. And then add the link click-through rate and the cost per click, whichever you found, either from online or from your own data. So, and then there's the prompt. So the rest of this is the prompt itself. So you would copy and paste everything from here downwards. You just do shift copy. And this will sort of lay it all out. And you'll see a lot of this is sort of sections or information which is repeated for each section. So there's a lot of repetition in this, but it's all pretty useful. So I'm saying to start with, you know, call this or title this Meta Ads Analysis, and then add a section called background information, which is going to be the date of the report, the date of the advertising being analyzed, the name of the spreadsheet that was uploaded, that sort of stuff, which is useful to know. And then create a table. And for each table, I've said, these are the columns in the table. This, if you're missing any columns, this is how you deal with it. For example, if there's no ad ID, because we took that out, then just don't include it in the spreadsheet. Then format the numbers in the table this way. So this is now turning that that rather sort of clunky spreadsheet that was produced by Ads Manager into something that looks nicer and which you can understand more easily. Cross-check the information. This is one of these things to make sure that ChatGPT is paying attention and not sort of randomly hallucinating numbers into your tables by asking it to do a little bit of a division in part of it, and then rank the ads. So when you see the table, you want to have the best performing ad at the top of the table, and then going down, you got some lower performing ads. So then the next thing is going to be your first section, which is cost per result. You got, again, you're defining your column headings, handling missing data, formatting the table. These are all the things which we did in the previous section. And this is where you put the benchmark cost per result. So you're taking your benchmark costs from wherever you found it online and just putting it in here. I've already got 2 benchmark costs. So I found the result type post engagements use 0.007 as the benchmark cost per result. I got that from looking at our past advertising performance and looking at all engagement ads that we'd run over the last year and a half, and then saying, okay, what's the average? Because I found that more trustworthy than what I could find online in that case. For result type link clicks, use 2.61 as the benchmark cost per result. So if you were doing an objective which was not post engagements or link clicks, then you could add that here. You would say, for result type, let's say impressions, use X cost per 1,000 impressions. So you just write in whatever you want here based on your objective. So that covers that bit. And then you've got commentary on that. And then the link click performance is just looking at the link clicks and the click-through rate. And again, we're producing the same table. We're asking ChatGPT to analyze the table, and we're putting in a couple of benchmarks. So click-through rate, this is a benchmark you want to put in. Cost per link click is another benchmark you want to put in. So anything that's in red is something which you would update with what information you can find either online or from your own past history of the ads. And then finally, there's a sort of section which is video audience retention, which is going to look at what the drop-off is. So I asked it to create a table first, again, using the same format, and then also to define the hook rate and the hold rate, and then to create a video. Oh, sorry, not a video, a graph. So the graph is down here. Add a graph, video audience retention graph. So my suggestion would be if you've got, if you're analyzing a chart, or let's say you're analyzing data coming from any sort of ad platform, you could structure it like this, where you have, you always look at the columns which you want in the final report, extracted from the information in the report. So you're basically formatting the ChatGPT report that you're going to do, and consider some of these things which I've got in here. Okay, so let's actually run it. So we'll go back, we'll go to here, and we'll start a new chat and see if this reacts fairly quickly. So I'm now going to do something, which is I'm going to take the original prompt here. I'm going to go from here, and then click Shift and scroll down to the bottom, which is a long way down. This took a while to actually put together. So I do copy and paste that in there. So that's your prompt. And then we got to attach, remember, the data, the original data that's going to be working on. So you upload this, and this was the downloads. This is basically this one here. And I just want to check this, make sure. Okay, and then you just click go, and we'll see what it comes up with. Now, it might take a little while to analyze. If it takes too long, I just prepared one earlier on. It just depends on the time of day, whether it's feeling energetic or not. Let's see. It is doing a lot of analysis. So what I'll do, I'm going to come back to, oh, here we are. So this is a typical typical chart. You have to go into the chart and then you can look at it. So this, now it's got the amount spent, the impressions, the result type, the result. It's got sort of nicely shaded or whatever. This is more like something which it's easier to look at and better formatted. Video views, video plays. This is all the information to begin with that we've uploaded in one long table. Okay, then the next thing is it's going to do the cost per result. So that's another table. And it's going to give you the commentary. So Grey Robot delivered the lowest cost per result, 11% lower than the benchmark, indicating efficient performance related to expectations. And Blue Robot exceeded the benchmark, so it's not quite so good. And then it'll go through link click performance. It's another chart and the commentary on it. Blue Robot had the lowest cost per click, per link click, decent click-through. Grey Robot had a decent click-through rate, but a cost per click 20% higher, suggesting it's drawing interest, but a slightly elevated cost. So all this stuff you can sort of go into in a little bit more detail. The next thing it should be looking at is probably video audience retention summary. So now it's going to do a table which is specific to audience retention. You got your through plays, your hook rate, hold rate, all those sorts of things there. And here's the commentary. And here's a definition which is pulled out of the prompt. The hook rate and hold rate, what it actually means. And then finally you've got, should come up with a graph, I think, in a second. This is actually slightly quicker than it was earlier on today. It's probably a little bit slower on the graph. So there's your 3 ads with 100% viewed, you know, as you get this drop off. So you can see they're actually all fairly similar, although the best performing one tends to be the Grey Robot here. People aren't dropping off so fast here as they are on Dan's. Now, the one thing you have to bear in mind is that 100% viewed is 12 seconds in Dan's case, and then the other is 7%. So it's slightly unfair to judge it in the same way, but it is giving you at least a consistency in terms of who's got to the end and where are they dropping off in the ad. And it seems that on Dan's ad, they're sort of dropping off fairly consistently from the beginning here. So it's not like a key point where they suddenly drop off more than any other point. It's just like a gradual decline. And then here's the commentary on it. So, and then there's the final section, which is trends and patterns. So consistent high performance, Grey Robot consistently ranks at or near the top across all metrics. Dan has got a strong hook rate and impressions, but hasn't got a very good click-through rate. So people aren't really interested in what he's saying in that case. It doesn't appear that they're actually clicking on the Learn More button. And the Blue Robot is balanced, but doesn't seem to, it has limited reach. So it's got a moderate hold rate. People aren't really staying through to the end as much as they are with the other robot ad. And then some common observations here and some suggested next steps, which is, now this is where it gets pretty useful. So it's saying, you know, the Grey Robot should be prioritized because it's got strong retention. It's got a low cost per result, best full video completion rate. Consider increasing the budget on this one. Consider optimizing Dan by shortening the video length, rewriting or reposition the call to action. So in other words, give people more of a reason to click on that button and to, you know, to go and see what's going on, to actually get involved with BizHack. Maybe do an A/B test with new thumbnails for the first 3 seconds. So maybe you could have Dan rather than just looking straight at camera. Maybe it would be him in a different position, or even with maybe a caption in front of him, you know, that could be interesting. And then you've got repackaging Blue Robot for testing at scale. So it's reasonably good, but it says slight creative adjustments. And remember, the Blue Robot was one which had a lot of text on, really tiny, and I think that impacted it. And then creative and placement testing, explore testing the same creators in other placements. So this is all about Facebook feed, but maybe we should be looking at Instagram. We actually did do this in Instagram, but I didn't download that information. But you could run this report just for Instagram placement. Improve the click strategy. Yeah, all ads underperformed on the click-through rate versus the benchmark. But they were engagement ads. They're not about clicks so much as trying to get people to interact with the post. So that's not so much of a problem. But still, if you were to run these ads and you wanted to say, okay, we've run these ads as post engagement ads, but now we want to actually use them to get people to click on them, then this is what you'd have to do. You'd have to have a stronger value-driven headline and a clearer call to action. So that gives you the information. And then there's one other thing you can do, which is pretty good, which is actually upload the creative itself. So the prompt, the bit of the prompt which I would suggest putting in is something like this. And this is like a sort of bonus part of it, which isn't in the prompt. And I deliberately didn't put it in the prompt because I wanted ChatGPT to take all the information and the numbers and work out, without looking at the creative, what was going on. And then, having gone through that process, it's now sort of got its head round what the ads were doing. I'm now going to add this prompt here, which is based on these image of the first frame of the Facebook ads for Dan, Grey Robot, and Blue Robot that were analyzed in the report. Analyze each ad and identify potential reasons for the good or poor performance as identified in the report, based on layout, image, primary text, headline, call to action, all of those things. So now giving it a little bit more information, saying, okay, you told me that this is what's likely to be happening. Can you see any reasons in the creative for what's going on? And here, obviously, you just have to upload the images. So I would upload, let's see, what are they? Probably in the desktop, actually. So I just took screenshots earlier on of these. And there they are. I'm just going to add these screenshots. And then I click upload. And now you see that the quality of what it's coming up with is going to be better, because it can start giving you more suggestions about what you should do. So the Blue Robot. Okay. Let's see what it says about that. A humanoid robot with a striking futuristic metallic design. Okay, great. Text on image, concise and benefit focused. Call to action, strong visual clarity and professionalism, speaks directly to a pain point, excellent synergy. Image may feel slightly generic. Well, that's true. There's a lot of ads with robots on them. Could test variation. Grey Robot, this is better. Visual, very similar to Blue Robot, but slightly lighter, cleaner color scheme. Feels futuristic, more accessible. Text on the image is clearly structured. I think the text is better in this one. Strong testimonial tone. People should attend because it offers a practical high, blah, blah, blah. So it's got perhaps a stronger text. And what's working? Symmetrical composition, familiar layout across robot variants may reinforce brand recall. I'm not sure what that means actually in that case. Here it says the primary text is not as scannable, might benefit from shorter, more direct phrasing. That's, remember, the primary text is the text right above the video. And then Dan, let's see what it says about that. It says what's not working. No visual or textual urgency or value proposition in the opening frame, lacks polish compared to robot ads, thumb stopping power is limited, human face alone doesn't stand out in this setting, which is true. I mean, it's just another face. The robots at least give you an idea of what this ad is about, whereas Dan speaking could be pretty much about anything. Suggested fixes: add engaging on-screen text, like a caption, which is what I talked about before. Start with dynamic visual, rewrite intro text to prioritize urgency. And then it does a little sort of comparison table, which is quite nice. So you've got the weaknesses, the strengths. So here you've got a whole list of problems, which is now sort of looked at the ads themselves and worked out based on the ads. So how are we doing on time? 1:42. What time did we start? We got another 15 minutes till 2. Yeah, you probably want 15 minutes for questions. So that's what I wanted to go through. Yeah. And I'm sort of open to any questions on Facebook or anything that I've talked about.
Wow, Mike, this is so much valuable information, and the way you break down the the step-by-step with the mega prompt. I can still remember just like 2 years ago when for those who are more in the marketing field, how these reports was so extensive, they was so hard to understand and consume so much time. And for some reason, I don't know, in my opinion, Meta makes it sometimes so hard to get to the point when you need like a specific report or data from the Meta Business Suite. So this is amazing, and thank you for being so generous, sharing the guide, the Mega Prompt guide. It's so useful and so helpful for so many small business owners and even marketing professionals that we need to use the power of AI to simplify and get to this valuable information for our marketing efforts. I don't know if Dan is still in the house. Since we're talking so much about Dan in this campaign, Dan, are you still around? Oh, okay.
Maybe not. I'd say one thing about the prompt, and that is the prompt is like it's a living, breathing thing. And I want you guys to, like everyone on this call, to use it. And then if you're finding it's delivering value or not delivering value, just contact me. I'm at mike@connectedjewelry.com. Let me know. And I'm quite happy to get on a call with you and to talk about, what are you doing? Because I want to make this prompt better. And the only way to make it better is to have people using it and to feed back to me things like, okay, this part of it's working, this part of it's not, this is confusing, whatever. And I will help work with you to make this prompt better. So it's sort of better for small businesses in general. So that's the idea. So please do contact me. I'm on mike@connectedjewelry. I'll just put it in the chat.
Great, and I'm going to pull up a couple of the Q&A questions, and I would like to invite Rebecca, if you would like to unmute and share your 2 questions with Mike.
Sure. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, Rebecca,
Yeah.
perfectly.
Okay, great. Let me look back. Mike, first of all, thank you. That was, wow, all that information is fantastic. And so as you were going on, I should have written these messages, these questions down. So I'm going back here and let me see. Let me just work backwards. Second. There was something about the hold rate standards.
Yeah.
You had mentioned at some point. So do they always remain the same, or do those standards shift, like let's say throughout the year or over time?
What I found when I was looking at hook and hold rates, they're more creative standards about how the creative is performing, and they tend to be a little bit more general. So when you look at it online, they give you ranges like 20 to 30% is good, 40 to 50. So I don't think those are going to change so much, and I'm not so concerned about that. But there is a place on Facebook where you can find out you can actually see that they predict the hook and the hold rate as well, and it's within the ads manager. So I can briefly show you this because this is an additional piece of additional location to find information, which is really worth checking out. So let's say you go on to
Follow-up question to that, is that information included in the mega prompt?
Yeah. Well, so what I've done in the mega prompt, I said refer to a particular site where that information is on.
Okay.
And take it from there. So I sort of did say go online, pick that up. That's about the only place I've asked it to take a specific thing. And if you were to find a better comparison, a better benchmark, or you thought the benchmarks were changing, you're free to add in a different benchmark there. Then let's say you go into ads reporting. Now, remember, you've got campaigns here, and if you go into campaigns, this is where you'd actually construct all your information. This is pretty useful. So you've got charts, and actually here you can, if you set the date to something that actually ran, you've got, for example, in October. Most of this information was from October. Let's say from 15th, let's say 14th to 31st. So we should run some ads from there. And then I can look and check here what ads are showing up with activity. So for example, let's go down to new engagement, like this one, say my Go Dollar one. So if I click on there, oh, that's, sorry, I'm going to put this to maximum because that's just going to show everything. Date, yesterday, maximum, update. So one thing that's really useful is on this part of the site, you've got these breakdowns where you can change some of this information. For example, you now know that most of the ads for this particular ad were shown on Instagram. And if you were to click another ad, you can actually make a comparison. So maybe there's one down here, another like this one here. This will now show you the comparison of the two ads. Yeah. And if you wanted to, you could also compare timing. So you can click on here, and now you can, it's not going to do it, I think, because we're already doing a comparison here. But let's say you only had one ad. You could click on the timing up here, and now you can compare two different times. Let's say this is going from here to here. So I can compare it with another time. So you compare, and then I can put two different periods here, and it will show me different periods. So this is sort of functionality that isn't available on the ads reporting, but is pretty useful to give you an idea, particularly things like age, which it's easier to see on here. But going back to the ads reporting, I think there might have been something on here which I wanted to show you as well. Oh no, I know what it is. I know what it is. Yeah, so there's two things. Here, they've started putting personalized insights, worth checking out. This seems to be a bit sporadic, so they're going to give you benchmark reports. And here they're starting to do what I'm essentially doing with my prompt and saying that your event response is 29% lower than similar peer ad sets. So it's starting to do benchmark, and this is something really new. And hopefully they're going to get this a little bit better. But it doesn't do this for, it sort of sporadically appears, and you don't know quite which campaign this is referring to. In fact, this campaign was one which was a few weeks back, and it's just decided to show me that. So I don't know why it's choosing these campaigns. But let's say I go to reports, and then I go to, sorry, that's, yeah, this one here. And whenever I want to see an ad here that's in here, I can put the ad creative to see the ad creative on the left. And let's say I go to this ad. So let's say I want to check this ad out. I click on that. That's going to take me to the campaign data. So these two pages I'm switching in between are this page here where you create the ads and run them from, which has got ad sets and campaigns, etc. And the other one, which is where you build your reports. Now, the one thing here that's useful is you can see it says view charts here. This I don't think many people really use that much, but this again is really useful because now you've got information. And again, what we're going to do here is we're going to put activity history. Hang on a sec. Where's that? We need a date. So we're going to put maximum here. So this is showing you the performance of that ad. Here you got the line with seconds, which is really useful to look at, although this is not going to compare it to anything else. It's just going to be for this particular ad. This is the ad shown here. And here you can see it's got the hook rate and the hold rate. What it doesn't tell you is that a good hook rate or a good hold rate? We're not really sure. And then below it, you've got the ads, age and gender distribution, and the ad preview, if you want to look at that. So this area here, which is within sort of built in within the ads, it's the only place I think you can get to it very easily. And also you've got like post engagement amount spent, stuff like that. You have to sort of really know where to look for it to get it. But this is all very useful data, and it shows you that this hook rate and hold rate is something which Meta have now latched onto as being something that people should know about, because it's a very good way of finding out in terms of the hook rate are people engaging with the ad straight away? And hold rate, are people being retained throughout the duration of the video ad? And you can get this information at the ad set level here. You can see it's going to give you different information. So this is age and gender distribution. What else? I always think that at the ad level, it's the best information. That's why I sort of developed the prompt around that. And then, of course, you can compare the age and gender distribution of the people who are seeing your ad to the people who are visiting your Facebook site and see whether it's different. I mean, in this case, like all of these people are 55 to 65 plus. This is quite an old age group watching this robotic ad. It makes me wonder, maybe Facebook is actually deliberately targeting using Advantage Plus, people who are older because they're cheaper to get to, despite the fact that I'm not so interested in reaching them. It's directing the traffic in that direction, or it's directing the ad to those people because it can get a cheaper cost per post engagement, particularly if these people are watching it on iPads, let's say, particularly if they're older people who tend to scroll more slowly. So therefore, the ad's going to autoplay up to the point of 3 seconds. And then at 3 seconds, it's going to count as a post engagement. And then, Meta can then say, oh, we really upped your post engagements amazingly. The ad's doing really well. But what you don't know is it's actually people who are older looking at the iPad and not scrolling and not actually interested in the ad. They just haven't got around to scrolling. So that's why you have to sort of question whether some of the AI built into Meta is actually in your favor. And you can only decide that if you look at the statistics yourself and start developing your own, analysis.
Oh, thank you, Rebecca, for your question. And this is such a different way of seeing how to understand the way the ads are distributed on Meta. There are so many small businesses that have lost so much money just, thrown away, not being able to get results from Meta, from the ads platform. And it's because there's so much detailed, so much to analyze. And for sure with this mega prompt, it's going to be so much easier with this systematic approach that Mike had shared today with us. We also have Amanda Nickel. Your hand was raised. Amanda, would you like to unmute and share your question?
Hey, hi there. I'm a graduate from the BizHack Academy. Sorry,
Nice to
Heather.
see you around.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here, Mike. That was incredible. I put it in the chat. We're mostly focused on the link click-through rates and engagement, and this was mostly a plug for e-commerce. I'm going to be finishing up my e-commerce website, jewelry one of a kind, and so let's see, do you have any suggestions specifically for e-commerce brands looking to drive actual purchases, or will there be a separate model masterclass, shout out to Dan, for conversion strategies for purchasing for driven campaigns? Hint, hint.
Yeah. Hopefully they will actually at some point. We can sort of update this and do a separate one, which is more focused on sales, because it's impossible to get through everything. I mean, we only just managed to get through within an hour and a half, and that wasn't even looking at sales. But as I said, the principles involved in putting the prompt together are pretty similar. You need to specify the table you want to create, what the column headings are going to be, and one of them is obviously going to be sales, any metrics which you want related to sales performance, or which could be more inclined towards sort of ROAS and things like that. Some of these other metrics which are more concerned with how much money you're actually making from the ad. But then, if you can add metrics into those benchmarks, and build out. What I would suggest you do, this would be really interesting actually for you to try, and then contact me about it and see how it's going. Actually build out your own section into the prompt around using sales. So create another section which is called sales, and then think about what you would put into it, what the column headings would be, which you'd put into the ad, into the ads reporting, and see what it's telling you. And I think it'll give you some really interesting data. You know, ChatGPT will analyze that as well as it's analyzed everything else, and will tell you where it thinks you can optimize your sales doing that. So we haven't sort of done it yet, but that's slightly more advanced.
I'm
Watch this
happy to
space.
throw my business into the hat as to be a guinea pig, if that's something you're looking for.
Yeah, great. Love to chat about it.
Thank you, Nicole, for your question. And also Mike, also very generous also with his information, his knowledge. Thank you so much for that, Mike. And we also have a question from Annabelle. Annabelle, would you like to unmute and ask your question? Okay, Annabelle didn't share her question in the chat, but also we had a question from Brandon earlier. If there is any heat map features on Meta ads or on the reporting, the different reporting elements.
Yeah, I haven't seen a heat map. No, that given the amount they're spending on their data centers, that's probably something that they may well be looking at. The idea of a heat map is something I quite like the sound of, though, and it may be possible. It's exactly the sort of thing which we could add to the prompt. So that's given me some ideas. Like, how do you visualize? Well, what would you want to visualize with a heat map? Have you got are you thinking about a particular usage of the heat map?
Are you around, Brandon? Maybe to unmute and specify what would you like to see on the heat map?
Or a heat map of what is the question?
Yeah.
Because you could do heat maps of a lot of things. Maybe I think what would be useful to show. Obviously, a heat map around which part of the ad is somebody looking at is like the most typical, but we can't really do that based on the information because we don't have like an eyeball viewer which is showing where you're looking at the screen. A heat map of maybe if you had like a table, a 3D table or something, no, maybe 2D table, maybe you've got something like clicks, and then platform. You got all the platforms on one side, all the clicks on the other, and the platforms with the lowest cost clicks are green, and the ones with the highest cost clicks are red. You could maybe do something like that. So it could be like a good way to visually show the data. So you could like jump on the platform, which is the worst performing one within the diagram, and see that. So I can imagine something like that could work.
Okay, Mike, I would also sometime, business owners or for those who are new to the Facebook ads platform, we sometimes confuse a lot what is the difference between reach and impressions. No, and there's a very fine line between those two terms or those two concepts. Maybe if you could explain a little bit how to understand what really is reach and what is an impression on these type of reports for ads.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, as I said before, like, impressions is just basically if an ad appears on your phone or your iPad or wherever it appears, it counts as an impression. Now, where reach comes into play is that you could have 15,000 impressions, but it's not very useful to you if they're all being seen by one person. So your reach would be one person seeing it 15,000 times. It's much better if you've got 15,000 people seeing it once, or or even 1,500 people seeing it 10 times. So the reach is really a function of like frequency and impressions. And quite often you just want to know how many people am I reaching with this campaign, just to be able to. And once you've got the reach and the impressions, you can calculate the frequency. So quite often that's what you're doing. You're saying, okay, the ad's going to 1,500 people. We know what the impressions is. We can calculate what the frequency is. And the reason you need to know the frequency is because if you've got too high a frequency, you're going to get burnout. Your ads people are going to get bored of your ad. So you don't want to show your ad more than maybe 5 times in a week to somebody. In fact, the best practice way of working with that is to say run for your campaign maybe 3 or 4 ads, and then after a couple of weeks, with people seeing those ads maybe twice a week, you take out one of the ads, the worst performing one, and you introduce a new one. So you're constantly getting this rotation of creative. That really works well. But I would say whenever you think about reach, think about it in terms of frequency as well, and then you'll get the full sort of picture.
Thank you, Mike. We have Carlos Orjuela, hand raised. If you can please unmute and ask your question.
Actually, Mike, thank you so much. It has been a wonderful information how to analyze all the results and everything. My question is more about when we are running campaigns, and I have been running campaigns for several months now. I usually start like maybe with 10 ads, I will say, and then after I put maybe, as you mentioned, 1 or 2 weeks, I can notice what is the best click-through rate or the results that I am having. And basically, I am deactivating the ones that are not giving results. Since I will say, let me see, the last, I will say month and a half, 2 months, I decided to just go with 1 ad, which is the one that is performing better, that is getting more results and is everything. So right now, the analysis that you are doing is not, I mean, it's not possible because I only have 1 ad. So my question will be, how many ads do you recommend to run? How often do we need to do this analysis that you were sending with the prompt? And also, how often do you recommend to renovate the ad, or depending how much have you been using? So tell us more about the frequency of the ads, the amount of ads, in order to have these comparisons that we have.
Yeah,
and by the way,
sure.
Mike, thank you so much. Everything has been wonderful.
Yeah, great. Glad you found it useful. I think, let me see. The frequency for a start, let's start with your question about the prompt. There's no sort of set number of times or frequency for doing a prompt like this. I would say you could run it maybe once every couple of weeks or something like that. I mean, it's very quick to do the prompt. Once you know how to download the campaign, your ad data, and you just add the prompt to it and put it in. You could run it every day if you wanted to. It only take like 15 seconds to do it. But I think that probably because you're gonna want to study the results, that's gonna take time. I would probably run it maybe once every couple of weeks. And I don't see any problem running it with 1 ad actually, because it's not necessarily designed as a comparison. It will work very well with 1 ad and say, well, this is how the ad's performing. And as you said, after time, you can start picking up differences between one report and the next. And that might be something that you'd want to do. If you created a project within ChatGPT, and you always do this within the project. So every time you do a prompt, you do the prompt within the project. Then after a while, you could say, okay, now tell me between this particular prompt, which I did on this date, and this particular prompt, which I did on this date, how has performance changed for the ad? And what are the implications for me? And then actually you might get ChatGPT telling you, yeah, your ads seems to be the cost per click is going up substantially, indicating that it's probably time to change it, or it will give you other information. So what you might want to do is take this prompt, run it through, and then actually compare the results of multiple prompts as you go along. That could be pretty interesting. And what you're saying, is there an optimal number of ads to be showing at one time? Is that a question?
Yeah, how many ads we should be running at the same time, just in order to, I don't know, refresh the amount of publicity that people is seeing from us?
Yeah. Well, you can do multiple different things with your ad campaigns. You can run multiple ad campaigns. You can run a campaign which is an awareness campaign. That you can keep going all through the year, maybe at a frequency of twice a week, and you can switch out the creatives for that. And then you can do a much more specific campaign to try and get people to a landing page. You could run that as a burst for a couple of weeks and try and get people to a particular offer that you've got running maybe in the holiday season or something like that. So you want to run those are sort of time-based ads, which are leading to a particular event rather than the general awareness ones, which can be going, the whole time. So so you can do ads which are pinpointing people at different stages in the funnel, people who don't know about you, people who are sort of interested in you and are interested in the offers that you're making, but not ready to buy. And then you can do your retargeting ads using, let's say, lookalike audiences for anyone who's interacted with you or your site or people who viewed your videos, etc. And those you can do much more intensive, maybe do like 4 or 5 times in a week or so, and see if you can get them to buy. And then if they don't, then you just sort of leave them. And that's a super targeted sort of strategy. So I would think about doing retargeting at the lower end of the funnel, something mid-funnel, which is about getting engagement through an irresistible offer. And then something at the top of the funnel, which is just so generally people are aware of your company and you build credibility, and they're not completely unfamiliar with you when they come across your shop or whatever, that always helps.
Mike, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anyone else? You got any other questions, Angie? I know we're up to 2:09, so we're going over. I could carry on talking about this all afternoon, so however long people want to stick around.
Well, thank you, Mike, for answering all of those questions. And I would just like to, very short, ask you this last question. And how can we define the objective, or how do I know which objective to set for my campaign, which is so hard sometimes to get to focus on what is the campaign objective? What would you suggest on that part to finalize the Q&A?
Oh, yeah, sure. And I think I would go back to one slide which I actually showed you before, which is so I can find it, which goes into the objective section. Hang on, my computer's being very slow. Yeah, super slow actually. Yeah, okay. Well, I won't bother trying to get this to actually show up, but I'll tell you about it. Facebook objectives range from awareness all the way through to sales. And they do what I just mentioned. They actually tackle different parts of the funnel for your customers. So deciding on the objective really depends on what you want your customers to do in the end. You just want to make sure that you've got the right objective for the right thing. So if you do want to get traffic to your website, to your landing page for some reason, you probably want to click traffic as your objective. And then when you're optimizing traffic, out of all the different things that you can choose, you probably choose maybe link clicks. Or if you want sales and you really want to make your campaign about getting products sold, you can use sales as your objective, or conversions, and then you'll measure the number of people who are actually buying product, and Facebook will be optimizing against that information. So it'll be detecting who's bought a product and finding more people like that. So really the objective you choose depends on where your target customer is in the funnel and what you want to optimize for. So I would go back and look at the different sort of ways in which you can optimize for each objective and decide which one is the best. And also, I mean, you can also ask ChatGPT all these questions. It's incredibly good at answering a question like that. If you were to just ask ChatGPT, how would I decide what objective to use for my Facebook campaign, and how to optimize or which performance measure I should be using to optimize for that objective, it will tell you. And then you can even feed in, this is my situation, I've got a shop that's 3 years old, my customers aren't coming in as frequently as I wanted them to. What would you suggest as a strategy? Which objective? And it will give you like quite a high level suggestion, which is always good.
Perfect, Mike. Thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you for so much valuable information, a very high quality masterclass. And for sure, I'm going to use the master prompt, the mega prompt guide. It's so useful, so helpful. Thank you so much. And please, you can scan right now the AI prompt guide. This is a thank you gift from BizHack Academy for you being part of the masterclass for today. Jose is going to share the link for the AI prompt guide right now in the chat, so you can continue your AI journey even better and stronger. We already launched the last poll, right, Jose? So if you haven't responded,
yes, Angie.
we really appreciate you answering the last poll for today, even though I can see almost all of you have gone through the poll. And share your aha moments in the chat. And thank you so much for asking those important questions for the masterclass and complimenting Mike answers that add so much value to this masterclass. And don't forget, on June 11th, we have the Story-Driven Growth Masterclass with Dan, where he's going to show you so much different strategies on how to use your story-driven to drive more revenue, retention, relationships, and resilience to grow your business even more. This is going to be presented by Dan Gretsch, and as you know, he's such a master in all of this chapter of storytelling and story-driven growth. So don't miss out. Jose sharing the link right now so you can sign up or share with friends and colleagues, which we really recommend you to do to spread the word and spread also this valuable 13th season of the master class season. And these are the other master classes that is coming up. Unlock AI-powered video editing in Canva. We also have Stop Guessing, Start Growing, on how to build your marketing strategy with another amazing instructor, Anita Larson. Then we have also how nonprofits can use AI to save time and fundraise more with Anna Mantica. And we finished the 13th session of master classes with brand storytelling strategies for business growth. So thank you so much for your time today and being part of this season of the master classes. Thank you so much.